Hey, everybody. I hope you're well. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to talk to you today about, you see the title on this video, just kind of talking from the heart. I don't have any notes with me or anything, but this has been on my mind for quite a while, so I want to address it. I want to talk about the futility of libertarianism. The futility of libertarianism. I want to go back in time in my own experience and my own particular political evolution in life. I was raised in a very conservative household, had good, solid parents, a good, solid upbringing. I was taught right from wrong. Everything that I was ever taught in life was really based on, at its core, at its root, on the Ten Commandments. I was taught all the fundamentals, the things you do, the things you don't do, how you act, what you believe. And this was a solid basis that formulated my way of thinking, which remains with me to this day. I began voting in 1980, and the first vote I ever cast was for Ronald Reagan, and I was happy to do so. I was all of 19 years old, I believe. I was born in 61, somewhere in there. And I voted for Ronald Reagan happily. And of course, he won and he served 8 years. And you all know what happened then. Then we got his successor, George Bush, followed by Bill Clinton. And but during this whole time, really the whole period of my life, and most all of you, I'm sure, can relate to this. I have witnessed the utter and complete and thorough moral decay of the United States and, of course, of the West. We've just continued to sink into this abyss of immorality. And I don't mean to get preachy in this video today, but I really believe that what I have to say is just common sense, and I think it's going to register with most of you. And I would really like to hear your thoughts down below in the comments as well. But, I grew really frustrated as we began to deviate from our moorings, if you will, at least the ones I was familiar with. And of course, Bill Clinton became president in 1992, and it wasn't all that long after that we got the big headline of Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, and there was just a lot of outrage at the time, I recall, because he had carried on this affair with this young intern in the Oval Office and in the White House. A lot of people were upset. There was a lot of indignation, a lot of outrage. And if you, not to get ahead of myself, but if you contrast Clinton's behavior in around the 94, 95 time period, really for all of his life of public service, he has a well-documented record of debauchery, both as governor of Arkansas and as president. But if you contrast that particular time with the times we're living in now, his peccadillos would pale, it seems to be, in comparison to a lot of the things we're hearing now. I remember another presidential candidate. I believe this was around 96 or so, and this man's name was John Edwards. He was the former senator, I believe, from North Carolina. And he was running for president in this time frame, and it was discovered that he had an extramarital affair on a boat or a yacht somewhere, and it derailed his campaign and it knocked him out of the race. There was also a time when the current occupant of the White House was found. He was running at another time for the presidency, and he was found to have plagiarized his speeches. And that derailed his candidacy. And even the mainstream media came out against Biden at that time. And they were outraged that he had plagiarized his speeches. And that knocked him out of the presidential race. But if you look at those particular times, which are not that long ago, with the times we're living in now, these sort of indiscretions and moral failings do not any longer seem to derail the presidential aspirations of our assorted candidates, because we've got the goods, if you will, on all sorts of people. We had the goods on Biden. We had the goods on Clinton, and he was reelected. We had some goods on Obama, and he was reelected. So there doesn't seem to be the impact that there once was when you hear about the moral failings of these presidential, I'm thinking in particular of these presidential candidates. Probably in the early 2000s, I began to shift away from my political moorings, if you will. I had become, at that time, a full-fledged neoconservative. When George H.W. Bush, launched his military escapades, the invasion into Kuwait, for example, or to liberate Kuwait from Iraq, and things such as this, I was all on board. And I was all on board with this prevailing narrative that was later extended and embellished and added to by his son, both Clinton and George W. Bush. This thinking that was that became a part of our fabric, if you will, after 9/11, that we've got to go over to Iraq or Iran or Syria or Libya or wherever, Afghanistan. We've got to hit the bad people there before they have a chance to hit us here. And I was all in for that. I thought it was a pretty good idea. I thought it was a pretty good plan. I wasn't looking at the big picture. I didn't know about concepts such as blowback, where if you poke bears enough, they're going to hit back at you. And that is exactly true. And I've covered that in a previous video you can find below. It's entitled, Let's Talk About Blowback. Sometime during the term of George W. Bush, I began to ask questions, which is a good thing to do, about all of our military escapades all over the world. And I began to question this philosophy, this Bush doctrine, if you will, of hit them over there before they can hit us over here. And I began to question the way we were spending money wildly, and our debt was growing seemingly exponentially. It was nothing then like it is now, of course, but the tide has not been stemmed with any of George W. Bush's successors. We've continued to spend money recklessly, as you all know, and now every 100 days, our debt goes up another $1 trillion. It is unfathomable. It was long about this time that I discovered the great Dr. Ron Paul, and I began to migrate over to his political philosophy. Dr. Paul is a Republican, he's kind of a rhino, meaning Republican in name only. That usually has a negative connotation, but Ron Paul is kind of a throwback Republican, sort of like Grover Cleveland or perhaps Robert Taft, someone like that. And I think he would have made an excellent president, but he is also more aligned with the principles of libertarianism. And that's where I went. I went from being a staunch neoconservative style Republican to becoming a full-fledged libertarian. And I want to talk about what I mean by libertarian or libertarianism for just a moment. When we speak of libertarianism, we are essentially talking about a political philosophy which is laissez-faire, meaning it basically says this: you do what you want to do, and I will do what I want to do. And as long as we don't violate each other's life or liberties or properties, then all is well. You can live your life however you see fit. And as long as the way you live your life does not interfere with the way I live my life, then all is well. Libertarianism basically says that you live however you want. You do not take another man's life or his liberty or his property. You just leave him alone and mind your own business. And you live your life by these three guidelines. You don't infringe on another person's space, as it were. In other words, the basic philosophy behind libertarianism is live and let live. Now that sounds really good. It sounds fantastic, actually. But I want to talk about in this video why that theory, that philosophy is fatally flawed and why it does not work in society. I want to get back to what I started with originally and the immoral abyss that we find ourselves in the West right now. And I don't know if I need to detail everything I'm talking about, but criminal behavior has become almost normalized in America. Deviant sexual behavior has not only become normalized in America, it is celebrated to the point that there is an expectation on the part of the deviants that you not only accept their lifestyle choices, but that you approve of them and that you applaud them as being something good. Now, I could give you a laundry list of examples of what I'm talking about, but let me just give you one. We have a cabinet member in the Biden administration who is the Secretary of Transportation, and this is a man by the name of Pete Buttigieg. He is the former mayor of Fort Wayne, Indiana. He is a homosexual, and he and his partner are the I really hesitate to call them the parents, but they have been allowed to adopt. They were allowed to adopt. I know one and perhaps two, but I know of one infant child. Now, this has been passed off as being normal and healthy and good. But I'm going to tell you, I don't believe that it is, and I will not approve, nor will I applaud such a thing. I am a traditionalist, and I believe that we are the products of our Creator, and I believe that we have been made male and female, and I believe it does not matter what sort of surgery or treatment you may receive. You were either born a male or you were born a female, and you're going to die the same, male or female. No matter what body parts you subtract or add, your sex is determined at your conception, and it is with you until your death. Furthermore, I believe that children need to be raised ideally by a mother, that is a woman, a birth mother, a woman, and a father. Now, I will quickly add, I know there are cases where children are raised in one-parent homes. Some children are raised by relatives. Some children are in foster care. Some children are adopted. For legitimate reasons, they may have a parent who died in their childhood, or maybe both parents died and they were taken in by perhaps their grandparents or relatives, and they were raised in that manner. Many are raised in one-parent homes, and I understand that that happens. But I am saying that the ideal for any child is to be raised with a mother, a woman, and a father, a man. I understand that there are people who deal with same-sex attraction, but I do not believe that is the ideal. I believe the ideal is a monogamous heterosexual relationship aside from being in a marital relationship. Some people don't want to get married. That's okay. I understand that. But I do not, and I will not ever accept homosexual marriage as legitimate. Furthermore, there was a time in the not too distant past when Joe Biden said the same thing, Barack Obama said the same thing, and Bill Clinton said the same thing. But the sands have shifted, have they not? And our moral compass has toppled over, has it not? And now we live in a day and age, my friends, where anything goes, where there are no markers for us to follow any longer, where moral restraint has been cast aside, where any semblance of moral normalcy has been thrown asunder, and everybody now can live as he sees fit. Everyone does in their own eyes what is right and wrong. And God forbid that anybody else who has the guts to stand up and say, this is right and this is wrong, God forbid they say anything, because if they do, they're going to be cast aside and marginalized as the weirdos. I would be seen by people like Pete Buttigieg as the weirdo, because now all manner of sexual deviancy has been passed off in America as the norm. And people who stand for traditional roles of men and women and marriage, they now have been marginalized, and they now are cast aside and made to look like the oddballs in society. It's been a complete 180. Now, what has caused this? I would offer the argument that what has caused this at its core, at its root, is the political philosophy of libertarianism. How can this be? Because on the surface it sounds good, doesn't it? If I embrace libertarianism, I'm simply saying what I said earlier. As long as you don't interfere with my rights, as long as you don't violate my life, my liberty, or my property, you can live however you wish, and all is well. Sounds good, doesn't it? Guess what? It doesn't work. You want to know why? Here's why. If you take this laissez-faire attitude toward the moral fabric of a society, this is what happens. When you begin to tolerate the immorality of other people, the obvious immorality of other people, the more you tolerate it, the more you tolerate the Pete Buttigiegs of the world, the more you tolerate the idea that two homosexual men can adopt children, the more that becomes normalized, but it doesn't stop. The more it becomes normalized, the more that you, as a traditional moral person, become marginalized. Do you see that? It goes like this. I am a sexual deviant. I am a homosexual who is married to a man, and now we're going to adopt children. And you, as a libertarian, say, okay, that's fine. I don't necessarily agree with it, but as long as you do that, as long as you don't interfere with my life, liberty, or property, you can live however you wish to live, and everything will be okay. But it doesn't work out that way. because the more you tolerate the immorality, the more the immorality becomes part of the fabric of your society. And then people such as the ilk of Pete Buttigieg not only revel now in being validated, but now they shift. They don't stop with just acceptance. It's not that they'll just stop with acceptance. Now you must agree with them, and you must celebrate them, and you must applaud them, and you must make what they do legal. And if you oppose that at all, you're the weirdo, you're the outcast, and you must be marginalized, you Bible-thumping Neanderthal. This is the reason why libertarianism does not work. You know why? Because the perverts won't stop. That's why. They won't stop with just your tolerance. They won't stop with just your acceptance. They will not stop with just your making their lifestyle legal. They will not stop until they have a gay parade down Main Street and you're marching in it with them. They will not stop. This is a problem in America. Libertarianism sounds good. It is not good. It is fatally flawed. It's fatally flawed, folks, because of this very simple reason. In any nation, in any society, somebody is going to be in charge. Somebody is going to be running the show. And if you cede the moral high ground, if you agree with the philosophy of libertarianism and you you accept the premise that anybody can live any sort of life they wish to live, no matter how sordid you think it is, or it is, no matter how perverse or sexually deviant it is, no matter how much you agree with that, somebody is going to be in charge. And if you just lay down and do not take a stand for what is traditionally moral and upright, pretty soon you're going to have a cabinet full of Pete Buttigieg's, people that are not just the Secretary of Transportation. Pretty soon they're going to be all throughout the administration until one day we're going to have a president, Pete Buttigieg, and a Congress full of Pete Buttigieg's. Would you be comfortable with a Congress full of Pete Buttigieg's who are making laws that affect you? This is why libertarianism does not work. It does not work because somebody is going to be in charge. And you've got to answer the question, who do you want to be in charge? Do you want a person or persons who uphold traditional forms of morality? They know the difference between right and wrong. They know the 10 Commandments. They do not, they take a stand and they do not get into bed, philosophically speaking, with the Pete Buttigieg's of the world. They've got the guts to stand up and say this is wrong and it's not going to happen. You know what America needs right now? We need people with guts. We need people with a spine. We need people with a voice. We need people with the courage to stand up and say, enough. You have drug us down into this cesspool of immorality. You're trying to ram it down our throats. You're dressing up like drag queens in public libraries and public schools, and you're shoving your agenda down the throats of our innocent, precious children. And we let it all happen because we bought into the notion that libertarianism was credible. It is not. America needs warriors right now. We need moral warriors right now. that are not afraid to take a few shots, that are not afraid to take a few blows from the Pete Buttigieg's, the deviants of this world who want to marginalize you and make you feel like you're in the minority. Maybe we are in the minority. I don't know. I believe it may be a 50-50 proposition at best, but we have too many Americans who have latched on to this philosophy that as long as you don't mess with me, as long as you don't violate my beliefs and my rights and my property and my person, you can do whatever you want to do. That is a deadly and insidious philosophy to hold on to. What other people do in a society affects the whole of society. It's as simple as that. And if you tolerate perversion and if you tolerate deviant behavior, pretty soon it creeps into your schools and they start ramming it down the throats of your children. And you allowed it because you didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Libertarianism needs to die. And it needs to die because, folks, the bottom line is simply this. Somebody is going to be in charge. And it comes down to this. It's either the perverts or the people with principles. And I mean moral principles. Somebody's going to be in charge. You think about that. No longer can we accept perversion and deviancy as the norm. No longer can we accept it as a normal way of life in America because those who embrace such lifestyles will never stop with just your accepting it. They will not stop until you embrace it and applaud it and make it legal, anything they want to do. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Comment down below if you would, please. Do me a big favor and give me a thumbs up on the Triple T video today. I would appreciate that. And this is your invitation to come and join the Trailer Trash Tim channel. I would love to have you come along. Again, give me your thoughts down below. I would really love to hear it. This is Trailer Trash Tim, and I will see you soon.